Hello and welcome to ABAP Programming Complete Course by Amarman.com. In the last video, we discussed about the SAP functional and technical modules, that is technical and functional modules in SAP. And we also discussed about the types of users in SAP. Now, this is in continuation with our last video. And in this video, we will learn what is functional and technical spec in SAP. So let's get started with the video. Now let us also quickly try to understand the role that is performed by these functional consultant or maybe our ABAP consultant. So functional consultant basically is responsible to understand the business requirement and then map the business process in the SAP system. So one thing we need to understand here is that every business is different. So we definitely, and SAP system is a generic system that can basically be configured to meet a business process or to meet the requirements of any business environment or vertical. So to configure that system, which is also called as mapping the system, we need functional consultants who have a good amount of domain knowledge. So for example, what is a domain knowledge? Domain knowledge is in the sense that if you are a finance consultant, then you should definitely have in and out knowledge of finance. And then only you will be able to configure the SAP system for the finance process. So if you have the knowledge of finance, then you will be able to configure it. So in order to be a functional consultant, basically one important aspect is that you should definitely have the domain knowledge. Now you can learn it, or you have got the domain knowledge maybe from your graduation. So whatever may be the scenario. Now, apart from functional consultants whose primary role is to configure and map the SAP system based on the business process, we do have technical consultants, right? Now, what is the main role of technical consultants? And as we discussed earlier, technical consultants could be programmers or they could be SAP basis system administrators or even SAP GRC or enterprise portal. So like that, there are various branches or modules of technical modules in SAP. But if we primarily focus on ABAP programmers, then basically what is the role of ABAP programmers? They are required to develop new applications based on business requirement. So this is one of the key role of the ABAP team, that they will develop new applications based on requirement, based on business requirement. Or they may extend, they are also required, ABAP programming is also required when you would like to extend the SAP standard code. So in those cases also you will require ABAP consultants. Now the question might come in that why do we really need to extend the SAP standard applications? Now the answer is very simple, that there might be a lot of cases or scenarios in which the standard application is not as per the business process of that organization. So they would like to tweak in or change some functionality of the standard application so that it meets their business requirement. So in those cases, in order to change or enhance the SAP standard code, you will need the ABAP programmers, ABAP programming experts. Okay, now obviously this is the next step. Like basically the functional consultants would try to configure the system to map the business process. But if the business activity that is required is not achieved by configuration, then they will approach the ABAP team to get the enhancement done. So the primary role of an ABAP consultant would be to develop new applications or extend the SAP standard application. Now, as we are learning about the role of consultants, SAP consultants, then it's a good time to even understand the methodology of their working, or basically the way they work in the SAP projects. So for example, the functional consultants, these functional consultants will frequently interact with end users to gather business requirement, right? So they are in constant interaction with the end users. Now, end users will give them a problem that, okay, this is something that is not as per our business process and we need to change it or modify it. Then that is known as the problem, you know, problem definition. So end users will define the problem. And then based on that requirement or problem, the functional consultant needs to propose a solution. So the solution could be either they configure the SAP system or develop a new application or do changes in the existing standard functionality. Any of the solution is possible. Now, based on the business requirement, the functional team prepares a functional spec. Right. What is a functional spec, by the way? Now, the functional spec is, you can say, it's a design document which will clearly specify the expected functionality. So that is the key word here. You know, a functional spec will definitely specify the expected functionality. What is the expectation? And if this solution, I mean, the solution proposed by the functional team requires some development, then that functional spec will be forwarded to the technical team. Now, based on that functional spec, the technical team prepares a technical spec. Now, what is a technical spec? Technical spec is a detailed design document of the development involved, right? And it may even contain some pseudocode. So these are the two major documents that gets created uh, in a SAP project. Then definitely based on this technical spec, the development is completed by the ABAP team. And once the development is completed, then we give that object for testing. Now for testing, the testing can be done either by, again, the functional consultant and later even by the end users. So this kind of testing is known as user acceptance test. And finally, if the development is, or if the changes is as per the requirement, as per the business requirement, these changes will be moved to the production environment. Now, what is a production environment? We will discuss about that again in a future lesson. But yes, these changes will be moved from the development environment to the production environment, where actually the business performs their day-to-day activity. So that's all in this video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, then please subscribe and hit the bell icon.